Coming up, because dead air is no good. See, we can fill in all dead areas.
Hey guys, we're back. We're at the Red Pill Expo, coming to you live from Jekyll Island, the scene of the crime where they created the Federal Reserve System. And we are here now with Mikki Willis. You almost certainly have seen his work, the Plandemic documentary, all-time records. What was it, 1 billion people have seen that? Mikki?
Over 1 billion, yeah.
That is unbelievable. And so tell us, you know, what I remember from when it was released was just a massive censorship. Everywhere it was going down, and then it was popping up. You know, they'd take it down and pop up 1,000 more places. How did you guys do that?
Well, this model was really people-powered distribution. So we allowed everyone, kind of reverse engineering what we've all been taught for decades, to funnel everyone into one site, you know, kind of hoard the content, capture the emails, or you know, make people sign up. Or we took away all the barriers, and we said we're going to release this for free, and we're going to allow the people to distribute it in their own way. We even incentivized people to change the title just to confuse the algorithms. We did several different cuts of the movie, the first minute of the movie, just so the algorithms would get confused and not know if it was the same movie or not. But you know, the real secret sauce was the censorship itself, because you know it was so heavily censored. It was the first time that a lot of people had been censored themselves. That just made people more curious, and so I really have a debt of gratitude owed to the mainstream media. Thank you so much.
It was phenomenal how the censorship. I don't think I've ever seen a censorship program like that. It was incredible. And so, what has been the impact? I mean, you're like a superstar here. Everywhere you go, people, hey, trying to get your attention. What has been the impact of that documentary? Are a lot of people waking up from that?
A lot of people are waking up, and it's not just because of Plandemic. You know, they're waking up all over the world. I think the biggest wake up is all of the mistakes that are being made from the people that are actually pursuing this agenda. There's been so many mistakes. You know, when you suddenly announce to the world that hydroxychloroquine is anecdotal and doesn't work, and you have, you know, 50-year veteran doctors and scientists who know the opposite, immediately they red flag the system, and they start to wake up, because they realize that if that lie right there is so blatant, what else in this narrative is untrue? But as far as Plandemic goes, it's been miraculous, really, what's gone on. I mean, there have been new schools that have started with parents that have just said, we've had enough. We understand the dangers, the risks we take with our children, so we want to raise our children our own way. That's been amazing to witness that. So many doors have been opened, connections with doctors all over the world that we're now in the process of uniting all the different groups from Spain and Germany and Italy and all over the place. We're bringing them together. To really show the power in numbers, and there are major lawsuits coming down. I can't talk about those yet, but major lawsuits coming down to hold accountable some of the vaccine manufacturers and people that have been pushing this agenda.
Wow, that's awesome. And so we were talking a little bit before we went live that you have an interesting background, interesting story. In 2016, you were traveling around with Bernie
right.
Sanders.
Yeah.
So tell us how you went from that to where you are now.
Well, so I've been I would say a far left activist for a number of years, and really buying into all of the narratives, because I was born in California, and at the time I didn't realize that 95% of the media is owned by one side. And so what happens is that creates the illusion of truth, right? Because if you flip and you go CBS, MSNBC, CNN, and well, they all, so this has to be true because there's no way they could have all got it wrong exactly the same way. I didn't know at the time that there's the great Oz that filters one narrative down to all the different networks. And so I didn't have any reason to doubt that what I was pursuing and fighting for wasn't true, but through the years, a lot of my fellow activists have started to have conversations, important conversations, you know, asking each other things like, has anything that we fought for actually worked? Have we made progress? And yeah, we've won little battles along the way, that little tease, that little carrot to keep us going, but have we seen the drop in the CO2 numbers or the whatever it is that we're trying to achieve? Has anyone experienced a real victory? And the answer is no. And so we started to really look deeply at that, of why might that be? And perhaps it's because we're fighting the fights they want us to fight, and they're keeping us distracted. And we can look at that right now with COVID-19 and understand it's easy to see because just look at the headlines, look at the search engine results. They really want us fighting about social distancing and masks and all these things, you know, because there's much bigger crimes happening in the background. But as long as we're all over here shaming each other and battling each other, we're too distracted by all of this and to really see what's going on in the background. And so, you know, then I end up with my first. I've been a documentary filmmaker focused on environmental issues and you know, organic food and everything just to help us lead a better life. And I avoided politics forever. And then suddenly Bernie Sanders comes along, and part of his message really inspired me. And I end up on the road with him in 2016 as a documentary filmmaker, documenting his entire tour. And it was along that road that I started to get the sense for the first time that something is terribly wrong. The general idea, I started feeling the sensation of like, I'm being played, I'm being tugged by my heartstrings. I started to see how morality had been weaponized. And I realized that, you know, that there was a common thread on the Bernie tour that started to really get to me, and that was no one that I interviewed spoke positively about America. As a matter of fact, I would say most of them really hated it. They despised it. There was a common narrative that, you know, America is founded on racism and genocide and America KKK, you know, that's like all this stuff was coming up so much, and I thought, you know, where are they getting this from? And then I started to listen to Bernie, and I realized in all my hours of filming this man's speeches, which on one hand inspired me, but I couldn't recall anything positive he said about the country. And then I started to have to really confront myself with, how can you lead a corporation or a company or whatever, a country or whatever it might be, if you think it's horrible, if you despise it? You must think it's wonderful, but room for improvement to actually be a really good leader, to take that corporation or country to the next level. And so that really I started to pay attention to that, and I realized that there was something awry there. And then I started to talk to these young people that were pro-communism, you know, anarchist and pro-communist, and trying to talk me into understanding why communism has never been given a fair shake, and it's only screwed up because of bad people who were leading it before, but it's really a great model.
These guys are going to do it right, huh?
And the same talk with socialism, which I knew enough about socialism, but they're trying to tell me that, no, putting the word democratic in front of it makes it a whole different ballgame. And I would say to them, but I actually have issues with democracy. I mean, Plato did, and a lot of our, you know, founding leaders mentioned that there's a problem with democracy. Everyone acts like, you know, we have to save our democracy, like that's the save all to everything. But, you know, when it becomes mob rules, which is what happens. So democracy historically has created the pandering that we now see from politicians. If they know that we're the majority, we really need the black vote, now let's just get on our knees in African garb and say whatever we can to win their vote. It creates this inauthenticity that literally creates the foundation for the corruption that we're all fighting against right now.
Yeah. That's amazing. So in the last minute or so we have left, we were on stage yesterday for the Q&A, and you mentioned that your next project was going to have to do with education. That's been my thing for years. I've been trying to wake parents up to what is happening in the school system as the root of some of these problems we're seeing. Give us a sneak preview. What is it that you're working on? When can people expect it? What's it going to be about?
Yeah, so the next project is going to be about stopping the indoctrination of our children. So there's I hope most parents are waking up to this right now, because what's happening is a very, very serious thing.
Yeah.
They're coming after our children, and it's no conspiracy theorist idea. It is a real serious thing that's taking place. It's being injected into our curriculums of our schools, and it's being passed on as, it sounds wonderful when you just look at the headline of it. It sounds like, yeah, of course I want my kids to learn about racism and how to accept our brothers and sisters who are different, and I want them to learn about, you know, how to respect women, and that's all wonderful. I would love my boys to be engaged in that, but that's not what it is. It's truly an indoctrination that will lead them into the front lines of everything that is wrong with the current movements right now, which is really there's a hatred for ourselves, a hatred for America, a hatred. I mean, we are literally reinventing or at least amplifying racism right now.
Yeah.
It's happening all over the world. And this ideology that is planned, which is why we call it Plandemic. I mean, these are, if you look at the manifestos that have been in existence for decades, they literally spelled out how they would do it,
yeah,
and that they would come after the children. And this is the time that they're doing it now. So the next project is about protecting our children, exposing the puppet masters behind all of this that are really working hard to bring America to its knees. That will ultimately result in a communist-like takeover, where we will end up like China in the very near future, and with no freedoms, and completely dependent upon government money, government medicine, government food, all of that. It is literally where we're going. And if we can't see that by now, if that still sounds outlandish and impossible to anyone listening to this right now, I would say try to find different news sources, because if you can't see this right now just by looking at what's going on, I encourage people to go to YouTube and look at all the man on the street videos, where they're going up to the young people in colleges and on the front lines of these protests, and they're just asking them why they're there. Listen to what they're saying, and you understand the ideology of something is not right, and what they're fighting for, they have no idea, will lead us into a very dark and deadly place.
Yeah. No, it's such important work that you're doing, Mikki. I feel like, I mean, this is just the issue. I feel like God is using you in a huge way. Where can people find, first of all, Plandemic? I know it's all over the place, but also nowhere. What's the best place to find it? And then where can people look forward to finding your next one on education?
Well, Plandemic can be found on plandemicseries.com.
Okay.
So we have a website that's offshore and decentralized,
Nice.
so they're not able to take it down, and it has Plandemic 1, Plandemic 2, and then it has all the vignettes clipped out of the movie, and all of it's in about 14 different languages. So people from all over the world. It's being seen right now more than we know in America, because there's such a firewall between us and reality that we don't know what's going on. And people think, oh, they killed it, didn't they? I said, no, it's viral across the world, and it's doing a lot of good out there and waking up a lot of people. And the next film we'll create, we don't have a name for it yet, but as soon as we do have that, we'll create an entire portal, and we're working with some of the most incredibly brilliant technologists around the company to devise new ways to bypass the gatekeepers.
Awesome. Well, Mikki, thank you very much for what you're doing. Folks, Mikki Willis, if you, by some weird chance, if you live under a rock, you haven't yet seen Plandemic, go get it. Make sure when the next one comes out, you get that too. Please share this with your friends. You guys know social media is trying their best to take this down, to take all of us down. Don't let them do it. The freedom movement depends on getting the truth out to other people. So even if you couldn't make it to the Red Pill Expo, we'd ask that you continue sharing all the truth with all the people that you can. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you once again, Mikki.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with you guys very soon. Thanks for watching.